در جام روشن شد که بیژن زنده است و گرگین دروغ گفته. پس دستور داد گرگین و زندانی کردند و از رستم خواست تا به دربار بیاد. رستم همین که آگاهی یافت چه بر سر بیژن آمده گفت شاها این کاری نیست که با شمشیر انجام شود.
There is a hunger in each of us for big stories, for stories that are loud and large, stories that join heaven and earth. I'm Jay Leeming, and this is the Crane Bag Podcast. Today we're going to look at just such a story called the Shahnameh, or the Persian Book of Kings. In particular, we're going to look at it as performed by Morshed Saghi and her son Arash Farhadi. Morshed means master, and Morshed Saghi is a master storyteller, a Naqqal, as we would say, who performs the Shahnameh with her son Arash Farhadi and has done so around the world. Thank you for joining me. Let us begin. All right, thank you for joining me here on the Crane Bag Podcast. The Shahnameh, or the Persian Book of Kings, is a mighty, beautiful epic. I've got it here in a translation by Dick Davis, which is in English, and it's over 800 pages long, and that's a shortened translation of the entire thing. Epics are known around the world. We know primarily the Odyssey, right, and the Iliad. But in another sense, we know these stories very well. We know this type of story very well because we grow up with these types of stories. For myself, I grew up with, well, I'm going to say the names. I grew up with Star Wars, Star Trek, and Lord of the Rings, right? All three are epic journeys. What does that mean, epic? It means big. It usually means lots of characters, more than a single character. And it also means a longer period of time, perhaps. It can mean not just battles, but entire wars, migrations. Those three examples from pop culture, they fit that description in many ways. They aren't sacred exactly, but they include non-human powers, which are at the limits of our rationality, we might say. Epics around the world have been going on for a long time, usually involving gods and goddesses, powers of this earth, rain, the sun, the wind, the fire. Beautiful things. The Mahabharata is a large epic from India that is just fantastic. And then there's all kinds of others. There's the Mwindo epic, Mwindo, an African epic, many stories from that continent as well. But in this case today, we're thinking about the Shahnameh, the Persian Book of Kings. Someone who recites and performs this story. You know, I shouldn't use the word recite. I mean, often there is memorized language, but it is really performed actively. It's dramatic storytelling. You have a stick in your hand or a sword, perhaps, and you demonstrate the battle scenes. For example, you might put on certain clothes to illustrate certain characters. So it's quite a thing. It's quite a show, and it's been going on for a long time in Iran, almost 1,000 years. The telling of this particular story, epic storytelling, of course, goes back many thousands of years, as far as we can remember being humans, pretty much. But in June of 2021, I spoke with Morshed Saghi. And again, Morshed means master. So she's a master storyteller who studied with other Morsheds. And then I spoke with her son as well, Arash Farhadi. They perform together, and they perform the Shahnameh. And they've done that for audiences around the world. I began by asking the two of them about the craft and practice of being a Naqqal, or a storyteller, in this tradition.
Naqqali actually was a job before for them, and they traveled to other cities, and most of them they had an assistant that the assistant was younger than them, and the Naqqal taught to assistant how to perform the Naqqali and how to say, and they had some sounds, very special sounds to do something. Like, for example, for a boss, you say something like that. And when the Naqqal became old and couldn't perform Naqqali, the assistant worked as a Naqqal and take care of the master. And they paid for the cost of living and something for the Naqqal, and always they were together.
And Morshed Saghi, how did you first begin telling stories?
Actually, when I was studying at school, we had some event and tradition, ceremony, and I acted there that time, but not as much as now, because I was just copy of the Naqqals. And one of I was copying them. But one of the most famous Naqqal was a very close friend with my father. And whenever he had, not whenever, sometimes he had performing Naqqali, my father wanted to go to see and listen. But and I was the only child, was with him everywhere. Go to theater, go to cinema, go to like a coffee shop for actually we call it qahwe khane. For most of the Naqqal on the street in the smallest square and in the qahwe khane, they perform it before. And I was with my father, I was listening and looking how they do, what they do, and what they say, and I just memorized and came like
imitate them.
Imitate them. But after that, I found my way to perform the Naqqali. It's actually different. I use more theatrical movement in it. Sorry. And then because I was acting in theater, so I borrowed the techniques and the knowledge from that to use the Naqqali. And it was because one time I was passing a park, and very famous Naqqal was doing Naqqali, and I saw the young people that doesn't pay attention more to him. And I thought maybe I can add something to perform Naqqali that takes their attention. When I started, they were so amazed and say, "Oh wow, I like it, we like it," and they show their interest, and I continued, and now it's like my way to do.
One of the characteristics of this kind of storytelling, which strikes me right away, is the aggressive quality of the storytellers. Morshed Saghi in performance is often called upon to do battle scenes and kind of tough, heroic roles. It's not energy I see in many female storytellers, but she does it quite well and is able to alternate also with scenes that are quieter as well. Here she is in performance. This is a recording, and I think even if you don't speak Farsi or Persian, you will get a sense of what her storytelling is like.
فرش‌های گرانبها و جواهرات بار اسب‌ها کردند و رستم دستان و همراه پهلوانانی چند در جامعه بازرگانان راهی توران زمین شدند. پس از چند روز رسیدند در کاروانسرایی اتراق کردند و کالاها بگستراندند و گوشها تیز تا از بیژن آگاهی بیابند. خبر ورود کاروان ایرانی به گوش منیژه هم رسید. منیژه دوان خودش رو به کاروانسرا رسوند و پیش بزرگ بازرگانان که همان رستم بود رفت و گفت: ای مرد بازرگان، آیا تو بیژن را میشناسی؟ رستم و گیو را میشناسی؟ بیژن در چاهی زندانی است و اگر کمکی نرسد بیم مرگش میرود. تو اگر یک ایرانی هستی باید به او کمک کنی. رستم برخاست، نگاهی به منیژه. اگر جاسوس افراسیاب باشد چه؟ سپس دستور داد مرغ بریانی را آوردند، داد به منیژه.
When I spoke with Morshed Saghi and her son Arash Farhadi, I asked them about ritual and storytelling, because they've done a lot to make this telling of this particular story, the Shahnameh, like a ceremony or a ritual, which is in many ways a return to the ways it's been done in Iran and Persia in the past. She spoke in particular about how she transfers the audience. I think we would actually say in English transports, how she transports them into the realm of this story, and how she enacts the story with them there in the room. So it's not just like something's being told, something which happened long ago and far away, but it's something is happening now and the audience is a part of it. That's a crucial and beautiful difference between, for example, a film, which is a record of something which happened in the past, and a story which is happening right there. It's not a fox on the wall that is stuffed, but it's the fox alive in the room, enters the room, and then leaves again. Here are her words about ritual and storytelling.
Yeah, for me, actually, it's like a ritual for me. And because when I knew about Naqqali, I was like a kid, and it was really like ritual for me, and it's in my soul. And always when I want to that, I never get it like okay, I'm going to tell a story because I know actually, and already I know about it. Now every time I say even the same story, every time it comes for me like I'm doing something virtual and show the virtual actually for the people that they don't know it. Yeah, it's for me ritual, and I wanted to
transfer.
Yeah, I actually I want to transfer them. That is ritual.
That's feeling.
Yeah, the feeling, and most of them, when I'm done, they come and say something. Oh my God, we listened many times and we read it, but now it was something else for us. You gave us some energy that we never had experience about it. Now I have like connection to that character or the story. It's like ritual for me.
Yeah. Can I add something? Like I remember once we were participating in Shahnameh recitation session. Like we were reciting the Persian Book of Kings, written by Ferdowsi. The admin was running a questionnaire, and she asked everyone, "Okay, what does Shahnameh mean to you?" And my mother wrote, "Shahnameh is my holy book, and Ferdowsi, its author, is my God." So it was surprising to me as well. Like I knew that she had that kind of relationship, but when she was trying to express it, like that's the expression she used, and it was interesting to me.
How do people in Iran today relate to the stories in the Shahnameh?
Oh, yeah. Actually, now today, the people very love Shahnameh and Ferdowsi. They read it a lot, and they like it because some people loves to know about their ancient and their history. But some people know. Now most of the people wants to know about Shahnameh and about the history in it and like mythical mythical stories that it is in the Shahnameh, and they want to know what can Shahnameh help them to live now for this century, how they can learn from that. They are figure out to know about it.
Yeah.
The life lessons, yeah, and the
Yeah.
meanings of myths. Sometimes political views they see in Shahnameh, like because Shahnameh is, as we know, it's like the Persian book of kings, so it's about kings and the problems that kings struggle with. So they try to see how today's politicians in some ways are similar or different from Shahnameh's character. And sometimes they criticize what a king or knight did here and there. Or like, for example, somebody killed someone or attacked somewhere, so they try to kind of criticize.
Why they wanted to take revenge, and because it comes like war and war and war again, and put the people's life in danger, and they criticize it. Yeah, to criticize it. Ferdowsi wanted to say us, it's not good to do that. We have to forgive people and live in a peace, not in a take revenge or even take advantage of the other countries or other lands, other people like that.
Is it unusual for women to tell this story or not?
Actually, before Islam came to our country, women were doing these things. But after Islam, no, they weren't allowed, but they did inside the harem, and just when the other women were there, they did it. But in this way, they could keep it.
Would you say that storytelling is a way of healing a community or an individual?
Yeah, for sure. Because of the reaction of the audience, and when they come to say something, for me, it's 100% for sure. When I'm doing Naqqali, it's healing, like my soul and my feelings.
Actually, you asked me an interesting question. It works differently for different people. Like when we do Shahnameh, like Naqqali, from Shahnameh, some people see some lights of hope. That, for example, there will be a time that this dictatorship is gonna end in Iran, and kind of a better kingdom we are gonna have in Iran. So some people see it that way. So from that perspective, it can be healing for them. Or obviously there can be some catharsis, like Aristotelian catharsis for people. Like when they see all these wars and blood and fights, and at the end, a kind of we have a climax and like, or cooling down. So that exists in kind of every story of Shahnameh. And as my mother said, yeah, for the Naqqali's healing process, healing experience as well, and that healing is even different. Sometimes, from my own personal experience, like sometimes I heal because I express for example, the story says the same thing that I would like to say to people, or there are some meanings in it or messages in that story. So in that way, it is cathartic for me.
When they tell the Shahnameh, or stories from the Shahnameh, it's remarkable the mingling of music and words together. You can hear that in this brief excerpt from their telling of the story of Bijan and Morshed.
زرخشندر آمد جو شیر نر
درخشندر آمد گو شیر نر زره دامنش را بزد بر کمر ز یزدان جان آفرین زو خواست بزد از فرسنگ و بر ماژراز بینداخت در بیشه شهر چین بلرزید از آن سنگ روی زمین بینداخت در بیشه شهر چین بلرزید از آن سنگ روی زمین.
سپس ریسمان در چاه آویخت و بیژن رو بالا کشید. همه بیژن رو در آغوش کشیدن. بیژن گفت منیژه کو؟ منیژه، اگر تو نبودی من زنده از این چاه بیرون نمی اومدم. آیا به همسری من در می آیی؟ منیژه پذیرفت. سپس همگی به سوی ایران حرکت کردند. 7 شبانه روز جشنی برپا و 2 دل داده به همسری یکدیگر درآمدند.
At the end, as the great Persian poet Sa'di says, thus ends this chapter of love. But the story of love will never end.
یک قصه بیش نیست غم عشق و این عجب که از هر زبان که میشنوم نامکرر است.
After talking with Morshed Saghi and Arash Farhadi about the Shahnameh and about Naqqali storytelling, I asked if they would be willing to tell a short part of a story from the Shahnameh, and they did so. So here is a short excerpt from that performance. It's a moment in the story when the hero Rostam has gone looking for his magical horse, Raksh, who has gone missing, and he does so, and he ends up in the kingdom of Samangan, and there he meets a princess named Tamine.
به نام جهان داور دادگر کزو گشت پیدا به گیتی هنر.
In the name of the ultimate creator and judge of this world, from whom all the arts and talents of this world emerge.
جهان پهلوان رستم دستان وارد سمنگان شد. در پی رخت.
The biggest knight, Rostam, entered the city of Samangan after to look for his horse.
Yeah.
To look for his horse.
تهمینه دخت شاه سمنگان همین که آگه شد که رستم در شهر آنهاست آهنگ دیدار رستم کرد.
Samangan's king had a daughter named Tahmine, which means the muscular or brave one. She heard that Rostam is coming to the city, so she wanted to go and meet Rostam.
تهمینه داستانهای بسیاری از دلاوری‌های رستم شنیده، ندیده و نشناخته، دل در گرو پهلوان.
Tahmine had fallen in love with Rostam, although she had not yet seen him. But based on the stories that she had heard about Rostam's bravery in the war and fighting and wrestling, so she was so keen to meet him.
پس جامه سرخ بر تن، موها بر شانه ها سراسیر، 7 قلم آرایش چهره، راهی خوابگاه.
She had done some makeup and entered the bedroom in which Rostam had been instructed by the Samangan's king to sleep in. Tahmine entered that room.
رستم چشم‌هاشو باز کرد، دید چه زیبا صنمی واقع شد.
Rostam, who was very aware whenever he was sleeping, opened his eyes to see who is there. But he saw a very beautiful and sexy girl.
بپرسید از او، گفت نام تو چیست؟ چجوری شب دیده؟ کام تو چیست؟
Rostam asked, what's your name? What are you doing here? What do you want?
چنین داد پاسخ که تهمینه‌ام، تو گویی دل از غم به 2 نیمه ام. یکی دخت شاه سمنگان منم، ز پشت هژبر و پلنگان منم.
Tahmine responded, my name is Tahmine. I am the daughter of the king of Samangan. Samangan is a city in current Afghanistan, by the way. And she said, I had heard about you and I came to see you.
تهمینه گفت من داستانهای دلاوری‌های تو رو بسیار شنیدم که چگونه به جنگ شیر و نهنگ و پلنگ می‌روی و ندیده و نشناخته دل در گروه تو نهادم.
Tahmine added, you are a knight. I am a descendant of knights as well. I have heard about your bravery and I have fallen in love with you.
You can find out more about the work of Arash Farhadi and Morshed Saghi at their YouTube channel, which is Simurg Way, Simorgh Way, W-A-Y. The Simurg is a mythical, magical bird. Simurg Way, Simorgh W-A-Y. You can find that on YouTube. Also, many thanks to the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, where some of the sound files for this recording came. And there are more stories and interviews on my website, which is jayleeming.com, JAYLEEMING.com. Take care and all the best.